What are the 5 best Adderall alternatives? I'm glad you asked, and I hope that you're happy that I'm doing this video because Adderall really is a terrible drug. In my years in consulting, man, some degree of my work has been like reviving people's brains after long stints. I'm talking about many years of the usage of Adderall. And look, I get it. I mean, God, Adderall is a very powerful drug. It's going to put you in a place where work is very easy, where you can focus for 8 hours at a time, where you can get like 3x, 4x, 5x or more done than your usual baseline. But, there's no biological free lunch with very, very hard dopaminergic compounds, especially dopamine reuptake inhibitors like Adderall. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 solid alternatives that you can take right now that are just less nefarious and less harmful, but also very, very effective at producing that high energy brain state. In the meantime, we are supported by Epic Nootropic products that I built myself. Number 1, Supercharged Dopamine just launched. It's a speed course. Number 2, Nootropics Mastery also just launched. Number 3, if you're having erectile issues, get fixed for erectile dysfunction now. That'll solve your issues. And these are all speed courses. Number 4, the Cortex stack. This is for another day or so, still $25 a bottle. This is all day stimulant, energy, focus, and flow. Code for that is 25 Cortex. And again, I'm a consultant and a coach on TRT, nootropics, biohacking, erectile dysfunction, sexual optimization, a host of other things. And you can hire me in under a minute at livecortex.com. Now, to kick this off, I want to bring you to a Reddit thread titled, "Is Adderall Abuse and Hedonia Permanent and Irreversible Due to Neuron Toxicity?" So basically, you can't recover. In which a guy's basically trying to make the point that he's got anhedonia from Adderall. Now, this is not uncommon. I have had a lot of people come to me that have had anhedonia, a lack of good mood. They can't even, they almost have diminishing returns on Adderall where they're not even functional. They recognize it's necessary to stop taking it. And when they do, they just feel like crap and can't function. And these are business people, important business people that have businesses to run and things to do. Another post goes, "Adderall and anhedonia. What the hell is going on?" Where a guy basically talks about getting prescribed Adderall and then very shortly after initially starting to dose it, waking up with zero emotions, zero feelings, zero ability to feel pleasure and joy for things. That is anhedonia, and it's a place you don't want to be. You're going to want alternatives to Adderall, especially if you've been using it and you recognize, okay, maybe it's causing some negative thing to happen and I don't want it to get worse and I'd rather cycle off of it and use something else. Or you're just in need of extra brain performance and you don't want to go the Adderall route because of all these side effects. All right, so let's talk about it. Number 1, elephant in the room, modafinil. Okay, modafinil. Now look, this is not as strong of a DRI or a dopamine reuptake inhibitor as Adderall would be, but this is a good thing, and I can promise you, because it has a dual mechanism. Actually got a couple mechanisms, but the primary mechanism is it enhances the orexinergic system in the brain. That system is kind of responsible for regulating your sleep. People with narcolepsy have a lack of orexin system function. So the prescribed medication for that actually is modafinil because that's one of its main mechanisms of action. What it does to a regular person who doesn't have narcolepsy is it enhances the orexinergic system and then creates profound wakefulness for sometimes 8 to 12 hours. This is why you got to be careful with it, not take it past noon or 1 because it might disrupt your sleep. However, 100 to 200 milligrams modafinil, or even on the lower end, 50 to 75 milligrams, that is going to be an excellent alternative to Adderall, and in my opinion, safer and comes with far less side effects. Now again, that is a prescription compound, so you either have to get it, prescribed through your doc or procure it in some other capacity. Common ways you can get it prescribed are having fatigue syndromes, having sleep apnea, or an otherwise sleep issue that severely interrupts your sleep to the point where you're walking around very, very fatigued. So number 1 on my list of powerful, safer, better, more sustainable, longer term compounds to Adderall would be modafinil, definitely. Number 2, a combination of the Cortex stack, 7 milligrams of a nicotine patch, so you're putting a patch right on your arm, and a shot of espresso or an equivalent strong cup of coffee with a good degree of caffeine. Now, look, if you break down Cortex's ingredients, you got Alcar, but predominantly methylliberine and teocrine. These are adenosine receptor modulator / antagonist. The energy and wakefulness state that arises from this stack is literally insane. You stack Cortex with a 7 milligram nicotine patch. You don't go to 14 or 21. 7 should be adequate for a lot of folks. You're just getting streamlined, neurologically available, cholinergic agonist nicotine, which, by the way, is a crazy brain performance enhancing chemical. Then you add at the same time, right around the onset of these other drugs, or the Cortex stack and nicotine, a shot of espresso. Just go to your local Starbucks, ask them for a shot of espresso in a small cup, and take it down. Then for a considerable period of time, at the very least 5 hours, but for a lot of people more than that, you're going to have very, very solid, sustainable energy that is dopaminergic and somewhat comparable to Adderall. Number 3, the Bromontane Dynamine stack. Now, I learned about the stack while I was coaching a locally famous Vegas construction company owner who like builds a lot of buildings in Las Vegas. Guy hired me to do consulting. Like, those are the kind of guys that reach out to me. Now, this dude had relied on Adderall to build his business for the past 7 years, and he did a good job with Adderall. The guy was making a ton of money, and like everybody in Vegas called him to build new stuff. But eventually, he was running into diminishing returns and anhedonia and libido problems on Adderall. This is not uncommon. So, I was tasked with like having to help him restore dopamine neurochemistry, which we use some research chemicals to do and some like pretty hefty protocols that are very detailed over somewhat of a long period of time. But in the meantime, as we did that, in order to keep this guy functional, we relied on basically one stack, and that was the Bromontane Dynamine stack. And the doses went like this. It was 50 milligrams Bromontane, 200 milligrams dynamine. Well, what this is doing is helping you to synthesize more dopamine in the acute period. So again, that's why it's comparable to Adderall. I mean, essentially, the effect of Adderall is more synaptically available dopamine. But at the same time, dynamine is this allosteric modulator. It's like a negative allosteric modulator at the adenosine site. So what that really means is that the potential for adenosine, which is a kind of a tiredness neurotransmitter, to modify that receptor and bind to it is very, very limited. So therefore, you just stay awake. You just stay having energy and wakefulness. That's why dynamine is such a cool compound. For your research, dynamine's nomenclature name is methylliberine. It is a very, very powerful compound, and it's actually one of the compounds that's like most prominent in the Cortex stack. So Bromontane Dynamine in a 50 and 200 milligram split is a great Adderall alternative. Number 4, the 9-MeBC teacrine combo. Now I'll just get right to the dose because it's the same split as the Bromontane Dynamine combination. It's a 50 milligram 9-MeBC dose and a 200 milligram teacrine dose. Now, I mean, this is a different mechanism, but somewhat of the same thing. You're just going to be cranking up energy via modulating the adenosine receptor, specifically in an antagonistic fashion on those receptors. That's going to promote wakefulness and energy. Teacrine is like top 3 energy compounds in the world, in my opinion. And then you got 9-MeBC, which is so comparable to Adderall and at least giving you more usable dopamine, but not in a way that is unsustainable. People actually use this to restore dopaminergic function in their brain. So again, the split is 50 milligrams 9-MeBC, 200 milligrams teacrine. Now, would I suggest dosing any of these every day? Certainly not. But if you're in a pinch and you need an alternative to Adderall and to take pretty sustainably, I mean, you could cycle between these options. That's kind of why I'm giving you 5, or you could pick 1 or 2 and just run with it. But yeah, 9-MeBC via all this extra dopaminergic projection. You're actually getting to the root of where dopamine projects and making that function better, as well as helping you convert more of your raw precursor into dopamine via tyrosine hydroxylase upregulation. Then you got teacrine amping up wakefulness and energy. There's like not many other better combinations besides the one I'm talking about, ones I'm talking about here in this video, that amp up energy and are Adderall alternatives like the 9-MeBC teacrine combo. Okay, and fifth stack that's comparable to Adderall that you probably want to take instead of Adderall is the following stack. It's 150 milligrams uridine monophosphate, 85 milligrams CDP choline, 90 milligrams artichoke extract, and then 200 milligrams of teacrine. Now, this is a stack that is very comparable to the first version of Cortex, which we had out for 7 years, but I just decided to change. So strong for focus and that kind of dopamine energy to get you to work. If you're not motivated to do anything, take that stack and that will change. Yeah, it's a very, very strong dopamine-centered, energy-centered stack. And then you've got teacrine in the background, again, blocking that action on the adenosine receptors, allowing you to stay awake. All of these stacks, including that stack, have heavy dopamine action, and that's really predominantly what you're trying to achieve, in addition to added benefits of energy and in modafinil's case the orexin system optimization, so that you actually have a diversity in all of these stacks of kind of different neurological functions that keep you awake and keep you very functional, as opposed to just that amphetamine like extra dopamine super hyperdopamine state, which again comes with anhedonia, typically diminishing returns or otherwise side effects. Last bonus I'll give you is just the Torque stack. Okay, so if you haven't tried Torque, get TorqueLiveCortex.com. I mean, I made this stack to be an Adderall alternative. It's an everyday stack, so you can take it every day if you need to. It's so strong, guys. All right, so again, I mean, I don't know if you want to end up like this guy, or this guy, where, you know, you feel like you've got anhedonia from Adderall and it's permanent. There are alternatives that function better in some cases, that don't have that kind of weird, like extra jittery, sort of like itchy and uncomfortable in your own skin kind of feeling like Adderall has the ability to induce. You know, come with far less side effects, are a lot more sustainable, and are, dare I say, equally potent. You just have to be a little crafty with it, and that is what the world of nootropics is about. Now, this launched just a couple weeks ago, but this is really the holy grail of dopamine. If you're actually interested in overhauling the dopamine system rather than just like attacking it from a perspective of chemicals, there is a way to get it functional, like to really overhaul it to the point where it's awesome. And I put all of that information in the Supercharged Dopamine Speed course. This is the holy grail of dopamine hacking. You can get this course literally right now, livecortex.com. Again, if you're interested in like learning nootropics that do all kinds of things for different brain states, but really having like targeted stacks to do that, get Nootropics Mastery. This is another course that I built somewhat recently, and it is live now at livecortex.com. Stacks mentioned in the video, Cortex stack, obviously one of the options there. You can do that at livecortex.com. This stuff is very powerful. Get you some nicotine patches and some espresso, and you're on your way. And again, if you want a singular stack that basically induces an Adderall-like effect, just buy the Torque stack. The stuff is very powerful. All of our products are in the description of this video. Listen, I appreciate the fact that you've been with me. Hopefully you get some value out of this, because yeah, you don't want to be one of those guys that's continually taking Adderall and running into all these side effects, right? There are better, smarter, in some cases more effective, but a lot more sustainable alternatives, and now you're armed with them. Appreciate you being with me. Appreciate the support. I would love it if you guys would like the video and sub if you liked anything I said, and I'll talk to you on the next one.